What is a relationship to land?
How do you describe your relationship to land?
How would you describe a relationship to land?
If you don't have a relationship to land, then how do you even know what that is? What is it? We're making work about something that you don't even know what it is. It's like trying to learn another language. My name is Eliza Gregory, and I'm a professor of photography and social practice at Sacramento State University. I work on a project called Placeholder. It's about relationships to land on a societal and individual level, thinking not just about social ideas of place, but really the physical land. How do we relate to the rocks and the water and the soil and the air and the more than human life that's around us?
My name is Amy Elkins. I'm an artist and arts educator based in Berkeley and Sacramento. To collaborate with state parks so closely, with the State Indian Museum, with Sutter's Fort, with the Native consultants and the ecological communities that came in to talk to us about their very personal experiences with land was a profound gift for both Eliza and myself and the students in this course.
As we're really rethinking how stories are told at both sites, it was the perfect moment for the Sacramento State students to come in to have these really deep and insightful conversations with local Native artists and traditional ecological knowledge specialists, and to then create their own interpretations of history and meaning and land and belonging here.
We go out into the world and we make art about relationships to land in a collaborative way, and then that creates a dialogue in the practice. So I'm bringing my past research to students, my ideas, techniques I've been developing, and then I see how they react. And so they kind of filter those ideas and processes through their own imaginations, through their own lived experiences, through their own curiosities, and then they make things, and then I respond to what they make, and they respond to my feedback, and so it becomes a dialogue.
Not everybody came to this space with the same understanding of what that land means, what it's meant in the past, and so I think that was a really interesting thing to witness and watch unfold in real time, was the processing of what this land means, and that includes looking at difficult topics.
We're sitting on a very complex site here in Midtown Sacramento. Sutter's Fort was first founded in 1839 and it has a very long history. The primary objective for Sutter was to develop a kind of manufacturing site, but also an agricultural site. Sutter, he cut down oak trees to not only provide building materials, but also firewood to fuel the forge, the blacksmith shop there, to make way for grazing ground for cattle and other types of livestock. As you're cutting down oak trees, which, acorn really was a primary food for Native people, that really impacted their ability to sustain themselves on their traditional foodstuffs. And so it developed this kind of dependent relationship with places like Sutter's Fort so that, they could turn and have a way to eat.
Acorn, we use that in our traditional foods in our ceremonies. We gather every year and give them if somebody needs them to provide that food for those elders and or ceremonies or get-togethers. I started coming to this museum when I was a young girl. My grandmother used to bring us here with my mother. My great-grandmother's canoe was here hanging on the wall. And I think now it's in storage, But I call the one that's in there, I always say that's hers, but I'm not sure if it is. I think hers is in the storage now. It's kind of like the prison. You go there, but you never come out. It's never seen again. I mean, they have a collection here, but there's a lot of stuff that's in storage that you don't see. It took me about 5 or 6 times when I went in there before I could get over the emotion. First, just the baskets alone. So just remember, those are our families.
Viewing it from a tribal perspective, like these are their belongings that were wrongfully taken or stolen, and here they are barriered, and they have to go through forms and steps and processes in order to see their cultural belongings. So in a lot of senses, is that they view it as a prison, and I think that really shifted my mindset of things, because I could look at this beautiful facility and see that, but I could also see how hard it is. I think we have to remember that these are not our belongings to hold. These are tribal belongings, and that's where they should be returning to.
If you haven't introduced yourself to the land here and to the relatives here, I would like you to take a moment to do that internally. Okay? I invite you to introduce yourself to this beautiful place in your own way.
I knew nothing about native culture except that my dad said he was Indian. He and his family and his experiences were basically the result of the missions experience. And eventually, my whole journey exploring my background was hunting for my genealogy. From that point on, I got totally immersed in the culture and became what I understood as an indigenous person, Native American person. There's something greater than just this little world that we visit day to day and work in various aspects and share the talents we have, become educated. They're just a much, much bigger experience.
California State Parks is committed to telling the full picture of history. That means not just a one-sided version of history that's solely happy, celebratory, but making space for the fact that history is messy, it's complicated, it involves violence and trauma, it involves things to be celebrated and also things to be re-examined and reckoned with, even in the present.
This has been done for us and to us, telling our history for us instead of us telling it ourselves. So that's kind of a concept that I've personally been working on and kind of looking to see how you all see it.
I think allowing space for these individuals to come and teach their histories and their knowledge to the students was really impactful. And I think that's what Parks is really trying to do. We're trying to partner with our tribal communities and really make sure that we're conveying not our voices, but their voices. And I think that's what this project really highlighted on. And it was really beautiful to see.
Something that came out of this class for me was this notion of how do you channel students. 35 students is a very large class. How do you channel students through these hard topics in ways that allows them to process, interpret, and create out of these experiences?
One of the things that was just amazing for me was I saw some students navigate it by taking the values that were being offered to them and using those to make their work.
The show was more to aim on facing harsh truths rather than trying to beat around the bush. I felt like what a lot of people tried to do was acknowledge more of the truth behind some of the history. A lot of it is painted as John Sutter being this person who created the fort, when in reality it's the native people who were coerced and enslaved into making this fort. And I feel like with this show we tried to do our best to focus less on the fort itself and John Sutter and focus more on the story and the history, culture, their lifestyle, and the stuff that they endured.
Once learning that history, it's like you become responsible to that knowledge. Coming to this class this semester, I didn't really have a relationship with land. For me, it wasn't something that I thought about or even needed to think about.
Doing this project was interesting to see land in a different way and how people have manipulated land and preoccupied land that wasn't theirs.
It's just something that's really necessary for younger generations to learn about and think about, and how to really preserve what's left of the species that we have.
We're taught one thing in school, but in reality, there's so much other stuff that doesn't get mentioned.
This semester taught me to slow down and look around and understand that the land is here and it's always going to be here, whether we like it or not.
We are all from an indigenous place on the planet. There's a relationship, I think, that has unfolded for me that I think is just barely starting to unfold with human beings everywhere.
Not everyone has a ruptured relationship to land, but I think a lot of us do. And I think if we were able to shift that, I think a lot of other things might shift as well. I think that underlies a lot of what I'm seeing going wrong in our contemporary lives.
Thank you.